I have a team here that came with one idea and they already pivoted 2 or 3 times. We have a team that came in and people look at the idea and they were like, what? Like, how am I even supposed to analyze this? I've never heard of something like this. And we said, okay, here's 100K. Let's work together.
Tal Zackon, thank you for joining me on 20-Minute Leaders. How are you?
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Calling straight from the F2 offices, right?
Yes, actually, as you said, the lighting wasn't that good in my office. I moved to the partner's office, so it's my aspiring position.
I love that. I definitely love that. Tal, can't wait to talk about pre-seed, F2 Capital, the Junction that one of my best friends, Mickey Chaslowski, also had the pleasure of being a part of, but also about the interesting journey of both being, one arm in startup scene, one arm in the investment scene, and cross-bordering the insights. But before we get there, tell me a little bit about your journey and how do you find yourself in venture capital?
Sure. Well, I actually told this story a few times. So, do you want to start from South Africa and where I was born, or should I go straight forward to me joining the F2?
If we had enough time, we would go back to when your parents were born, but we'll start
Just
when you were
kidding.
born.
Okay, cool. So, I'm originally from Cape Town, South Africa. Moved to Israel when I was 5 with my parents. I'm not going to go into like my whole childhood story, but when I was 18, I joined the army. I joined the Special Forces Intelligence Unit. And then after the army, after 6 years there serving as a combatant and a captain, I went to study at IDC business. And part of my studies, I did an exchange program at USC, University of Southern California. So I was about, I don't know, 26 at the time. And then all the others around me were about, I don't know, youngest were like 18, straight after high school into
Yep.
college. And some of the other exchange guys were like 21, 22. And in Israel, it's not common to have internships. And all my friends were like, yeah, I'm going back home. I'm going to be working for Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, McKinsey, and this and that. And I was like, man, I have a semester that I have nothing to do. What should I be up to? So I decided to be proactive and reach out to a bunch of VCs on LinkedIn. Until this day, I say that any VC in Israel, if they go into their LinkedIn inbox, they'll find a message from me from like 2017 saying, hi, my name is Tal, I want to work for you. I think none of them responded. Seriously, one did. Johnny Sachs from F2VC, and before that, of course, he was at Genesis. He said, "Let's meet for coffee." I came to meet him. I asked to join. He said no. I said please. He said okay. that's a short version. And 2 days after, I started at F2, and since then, I've been at the fund for 3 years. Yeah,
Wow. Tell
so
me a
it's
little
been
bit about
quite a
F2,
journey.
about some of the the insights that you've had at F2, but also about what F2 is all about as a venture capital fund.
Sure. Sure. So F2, we are a seed stage specialized venture capital firm. We invest in Israeli early stage companies. We believe that it's all about the people. It's all about the founders. We put the founders in the center and we do everything we can to be an extension of their core founding team. We invest in deep technology, focusing on machine learning, AI, big data, connectivity. So it's pretty general, but there has to be some kind of aspect leveraging data or machine learning internally. Now, I know these are buzzwords, but we do have the capabilities in terms of network and in-house knowledge to really determine if this is real technology and leveraging state-of-the-art machine learning and data science. As part of F2, we also have the platform called the Junction, which is a pre-seed platform. And that's kind of our promise to the ecosystem. So we go much earlier than anyone else. So besides investing seed stage, which is our core business, we also do pre-seed investments. And that's when we see a team that we feel the risk is too high for putting in a couple of $1 million. So we will invite them to come sit at our office at the same time and also give them all the value that we give our portfolio companies while also investing on a safe a few hundred Ks and working with them towards the seed round.
So tell me a little bit about the pre-seed in general. It's very rare that a proper VC goes and writes pre-seed checks or puts that at the forefront. And you're actually the general manager of the Junction. So what is the Junction, and what is some of the thought process behind pre-seed? Now, I did meet a few very interesting people back in Palo Alto that are working on the assumption that, by reaching the founders early and going through the journey, and actually when you reach the millions of dollars of checks, you actually have much more data to base your due diligence on. I know that 1518 fund, it's a relatively new fund. They write even $1,000 checks to founders as a gift, no equity, just to get to know them and to go on their journey with them. But tell me a little bit about what the thesis behind the Junction.
I think that, as you described it very well, it's about building a relationship. So there are founders, especially first timers, walking around the ecosystem trying to raise funds. And it's very important to understand that they aren't competing only against the companies that are doing what they are doing. They're competing against any other startup that has been established or went to fundraise in the past 2 months. So that's very difficult competition. And the process of raising funds can take even 6 months if you're really having a hard time proving the value of what you're doing. And you also need a team to believe in you. What we offer at Junction is a very quick due diligence process that takes about a week. And we can offer at the end $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 and offer them to come work with us and build a relationship with a venture capital firm. So we also provide all this knowledge and this knowledge base of how venture capital firms work. And also from our experience working with startups, we can advise them on what's the best thing to do. So we have teams here that came with these crazy ideas that all the VCs said no. And we were able to build a relationship, help them build the business and develop the idea, and then go and launch a very successful seed round. In 2019, we had a few companies come through, and I think all of them, one maybe out of the 8 didn't raise, but all of them raised seed rounds from really well-known Israeli seed funds. So it's about building the relationship, understanding how the VC ecosystem works, bringing the value add, and building the relationship, which is really, really important because they get to know us and they will understand if they want to even work with us in the future, and we get to know them. It's a 6-month or 4-month live due diligence. It's the best thing for both sides.
So the pre-seed, from my perspective, pre-seed stage really is, a few people that have a passion, that found a cumulative passion together. They think they have the right expertise to go and tackle the problem. They usually don't even have a product, let alone product market fit. They go and they want to raise funds so that they're able to come and bring something to fruition, possibly even get a few clients to raise a proper seed round. Is that too early to talk about VC? Because from one perspective, you can say that at the pre-seed stage, you really should be focusing on being with the team together, working day and night on getting the technology there. But it sounds to me that from your perspective, it's not too early because getting those relationships can only be beneficial as you actually go and want to raise a meaningful round later on.
Yeah, I think that these benchmarks of if I don't have a presentation and don't have customers, can I raise? If I have $100,000 in the MRR, can I raise? These are discussions that I think founders try and understand the formula of how VCs work. There's no formula. There are different risks that some VCs feel more comfortable with and some that others don't. And that's how it works. If I see a team with great potential, okay, and I feel like I want to work with them, and there's something I can do with them, and they are targeting an interesting problem or an interesting market, and they still aren't quite sure, but I feel that if I can work with them for the next few months, they'll be able to build something. Then I would like to work with them. And it's okay if they have a presentation and they haven't even written a line of code. I have a team here that came with one idea and they already pivoted 2 or 3 times. We have a team that came in and people look at the idea and they were like, what? How am I even supposed to analyze this? I've never heard of something like this. And we said, okay, here's $100K. Let's work together. Fast forward 4 months, $1 million raised, got into YC starting in 2 weeks. Things develop. You just need to look at the team and see the potential and take a bet. And what we do here is that because our core business is seed investing, a pre-seed investment is kind of, I wouldn't say cheap, but easy for us to deploy and take those kind of bets. Betting with the seed round is more difficult because at the end of the day, we only have 15 bullets that we can shoot during the active lifetime of the fund.
100%. So at the end, when it comes down to the seed round, how does the due diligence process look like for a company that you've been following along with the Junction through the pre-seed? Is it basically, tell us when you're ready to raise and then we'll sort of know already if it's yes or no? Do you do the whole process as if it's a new company? How does it actually work tangibly?
Yeah, so it's actually very different because we've been working with them. We have these bi-weeklies and these ongoing discussions. We are super up to date with what's going on with the company. So sometimes we will even be proactive and come to the company and say, hey guys, this is the time to scale. We're going to be leading a $4 million round. Let's go for it. We can also bring the follower. We'll do this for you. And sometimes they'll be like, okay, now we want the money, and we'll sit down and say, are we ready? Are we not? Should we offer them another 2 months and then go for the raise? So it's kind of this very friendly discussion in order to optimize for both sides.
It sounds like it really, mainly, it takes away a lot of the stress of considering, okay, are we going to be able to fundraise, and who do we fundraise from, and how do we allocate now 5 months of our CEO's time to just go on this roadshow where you can have this invaluable partner that not only gives you that few $100,000 in the beginning, but gets you to the place where you can be confident yourself about whether you're able to raise a proper seed round. And by that, obviously, we're not talking about the metrics, but we're talking about whether you're actually creating a viable business that could actually be impactful, right?
100%. And I'll add one more thing. You have fun. I mean, it's fun. The vibe here is incredible. I have different startups coming for seed round discussions, or different people from the ecosystem, and you come into the office and there's kind of this really cool buzz of like, think about it. We have at the moment we have 5 startups sitting here. Okay, one of the startups, as I said, grew to almost 12 people. They're still in our office. I can't wait for them. I love them. They are catching all the meeting rooms. Anyway, it's like this buzz of something's always happening. All these meeting rooms are like filled with people talking and drawing on the boards and do this and do that. And because and there's kind of a sense of community, and we have like happy hours. So I'm fortunate because I get to work also at a VC fund, but also with like 5 startups at the same time. So you get off like this really alternative kind of environment that you're not really used to when you enter a venture capital firm's office.
I love that. So additionally, and with a really great segue to working both with startups and in VC, you actually took a little trip down, start a plane now, a big trip as head of growth at Superwise AI, while also spending time with F2 and going back to F2. You mentioned in April, but talk to me a little bit about this transition. Why even do this, and what have you learned along the way?
Cool. Yeah. So this has been kind of this self-reflection that I've been having for the past, I don't know, couple of months. And I think I've discussed with many people in the ecosystem. As an investor, I've heard many times, and I don't have startup experience, I didn't have until now. How can you evaluate a company without already knowing what a startup is about? Maybe you should get some operational experience. And I've been trying to convince myself and read studies that there's no correlation between people that were operators or investors that were previously operators and being a good investor. And I still think that it's true, but I thought that I need to gain some operational experience and feel what the founders feel. So when I say to a founder, startups are crazy and it's really hard work, now I can say, yes, I'm working a startup and flip, it's like super tough. And I've been learning so much from working with the Superwise team. The company raised $4.5 million in seed about a year ago. Hopefully, we'll be going for an A round soon. The team is about 15 people, so it's exactly the type of companies that I would like to work with, because these are the companies we invest in. And of course, as a seed investor, usually when companies get to B, C, D rounds, the seed investors kind of are part of the board, but the growth investors take lead on how to navigate the company. So I think it's very important it was important for me at least to understand what the company looks like. So it's like building the go-to-market strategy and talking to customers and doing these demos and follow-ups. And suddenly, from being on the buying side, that companies come to me and say, "Hey, can you invest in my company?" Now I need to reach out to data scientists and say, "Please, I want to show you a demo of this product. I think you'll already gain from using it." And they just don't answer. They just don't get back to me. Usually they do. No, just kidding. I'll say about 20% of the times they do. So it's a lot of fun, and you know, closing a customer, a paying customer, which is a lot for a seed stage startup. It's like the thrill and the rush that you get from something like that is amazing, and I'm really enjoying myself. So it's a great experience.
Kind of imagine what are some of the most meaningful things that you're taking with you back to F2 from these few months at Superwise? Because you're mentioning that you went through the self-reflective journey where you're thinking about what type of skills or what type of experiences do you need in order to be a successful investor in your mind. And it sounds to me like you've had a pretty impactful experience with Superwise. So I'd love to hear some of those insights that you've gained along the way.
Sure. So I think the first thing is hustle. So you sit on the board and you are talking with your startup, and you're trying to understand what the process is and the sales machine, the KPIs, and sometimes as if I look at myself as a future board member, how I would see it, I would understand that you have to hustle. Okay, you need to do whatever it takes to get to the next milestone. You don't have to do things that are scalable. I'm not talking about product or technology. I'm talking more of sales and growth. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you need to use your connections. You need to reach out to people. You need to do whatever it takes to score these customers. And only after you experience onboarding a few customers, then you can really sit down and analyze what you did the right way, where you made mistakes, and then also kind of build the segmentation of the customers and how to approach each of them. And slowly but surely, then you start building that marketing sales machine. So that's the one thing. The second thing is measure everything. Measure everything, because there are so many insights inside those numbers that will really change your perspective on how to sell, who to sell to, A/B testing. I think these sometimes you underestimate them. You say, I don't have time for this. And it's a bit slow at the beginning, but I think that if you invest in the infrastructure of measuring things, it's a great investment for the long run and for the future and for scaling. So
I love
those are
that.
my two main takeaways, and I will definitely recommend that to any of our companies going forward.
I love that. Biggest tips for pre-seed companies, for example, that are coming to F2, because you really get a chance to both see companies, in their, early days and then in the early days of seed, right? So what are some tips more for the pre-seed? Because it's very rare to be able to talk to somebody investing in pre-seed companies and seeing a lot of them and seeing some of the journey that they go through. So what are some of the most meaningful things that a group of people can undergo between the pre-seed and seed that you've been experiencing now, and you can sort of tell them in advance, by the way, watch out, this is going to be important.
Sure. I think being in love with your idea is a challenge that many companies have. And when you raise pre-seed, you need to understand that you have to be very flexible, and inputs from the market and this friction with customers is super valuable, and you have to take it into consideration because you might be directed in a totally different direction. And I think investors, when you reach the seed round and you pitch them an idea, if you can say, I started out with this idea and now I'm pitching this idea, and this is what I learned during the past 3-4 months. These are the insights I have in the market, and that's why I pivoted and I chose to go for this product and this solution. As an investor, I would be like, wow, okay, he actually studied the market, was in love with his idea, which means he's coachable and flexible, and he is able to kind of productize the feedback from the customers. For me, that's a very positive signal as an investor.
No, it sounds exactly that. Tal, I want to thank you for being so generous with your time. 20 minutes go by fast, but I know that there was so much more that I wanted to talk about, whether it's the Junction, F2, where you're headed next, but it sounds like it's a phenomenal journey, and very similar to you. I think that I'm on a pretty similar path of trying to understand what does it take to make an impact, whether it's in investing, as a startup, as a learner, as anything. And it sounds like these different experiences are invaluable, and I'm definitely taking a lot from this conversation. So thank you. But before we leave, I have to ask you for the most important question, which is 3 words that you would use to describe yourself.
Sure. So I think the first word would be loyal. It's something that I think one of the values that I grew up upon, being loyal to family and friends, and I know that people that I love, I'll do anything for them, and I think it also is reflects in how I work with the companies and how I work at F2. And in Hebrew, it says Zackon neshama. So I think that's part of really being loyal. The second word would be proactive. I think that you make your own luck, and you have to be proactive and just like be out there, expose yourself, be vulnerable. It's okay. I think you can only gain from doing that. And the third would be hustle. I hustled my way into F2. I hustled to source leads at F2. I hustle at Superwise to reach these head of data science and machine learning, and it's all about the hustle. So you just need to do hard work and hustle and do whatever it takes. So those are the three words on my end.
Tal, thank you very, very much. This is great, and stay safe and stay healthy.
Cheers.
Really
Thanks for
great.
having me. Have a good one.
Of course.